Everybody, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today I am streaming live on Twitch, and I'm uploading it at a later date onto YouTube. So this one won't have the pause breaks in it to dry off and whatnot. So when I get to times where I'm going to use the blow dryer, I'll let you know, just to give you a heads up, just so you don't, hurt your ears. Also, since it's live on Twitch, people might come into the chat and say hello or start a conversation. So if I start randomly talking to other people, that's what's taking place. Without further ado, in front of me, I have a quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua. It's a 140-pound cold press, 100% cotton. I'm going to completely saturate it, then I'll talk about today's painting. The past few works that I've done have been on 8x10 size. And then when I just tore this paper to the 11x14 to the quarter sheet, so it's 11x15, I was thrown off. I actually had to put a mat over it and be like, is this the right size? Just because it's so large compared to 8x10. Alright, so I'm using a large Ranson hake brush. I pretty much exclusively just use this brush for saturating my paper. It's just an easy way to lay it down. And on the side, I have an image of a castle. So I just went into Google and typed in castles free images. The island, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, it's Eilean Donan Island. It's Eileandonan. So that's what I'm going to be working from, just a photo of that. I have that on the Kindle on the side. So it's always helpful to have, if you're working from an image, those Kindles really do help. Just because price point wise and being able to, not worry about damaging them. All right. So, palette-wise, in a video the other day, I said, is it possible for my squirt bottle to get destroyed over time? And my mother, who is, I guess you would say, a makeup artist, she had watched the video and commented and said, yep, those spray bottles can over time get worn out. So unfortunately, this guy is kaput. I'll have to find a new one. I think I have some somewhere. All right, so with this, we'll get started. I'm going to be working with the medium Ranson hake brush. People were asking about what brand I use. The Ranson hake is sold by Pro Art, and it's also sold by Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. You could also find it on Amazon at times and eBay at times. But the reason I do the Ranson hake is that it's sharper and kind of pre-worn, as opposed to a store-bought hake from different companies. This is like a Master Touch hake. I use this one for oils to soften things up, but you can kind of see a little bit of difference. Okay. Grabbing some ultramarine. I'm going to mix in some burnt umber. This is a mix that I haven't used in a while. For skies, I saw this mix in a James Fletcher Watson book for grays in a stormy type sky. And also, when I do this, what I'm doing is taking that buckled paper as it saturates with water and flattening it out. Switch over that. So it makes a pretty nice gray. The burnt umber and the ultramarine Usually people will go for ultramarine and burnt sienna for their grays or their darks. But give that mixture a try. Let's see what you think about it. So since I'm wet and wet, I'm going to kind of block everything in, mass in my shapes, see what I want to work with. I'm going to grab some light red and raw sienna. Let's see if we can get a little bit of variation in the sky. Some light red and ultramarine. This is going to be for a far distant mountain. It's going to rest here. And remember, since this is 11 by 15, if it's underneath the mat, it's going to cut in. But it's good to paint to the edges and create that whole scene. Sometimes the white of the edge on the border might throw you off. And we have closer land right here, and that's what the castle is going to sit on. So the castle will be in this region. And I'll play around with that a bit. It has a bridge coming closer to us. This island ends, and then we have a closer foreground with rocky outcrops and some green grass. So I kind of just worked over the whole paper, the wet and wet, just kind of massing in rather than sketching what I wanted pencil wise. It's just blocking in this fashion. I'm going to work my way back and forward again. I'm going to utilize this wet and wet stage for quite a while. I'm going to feed variations into this far mountain or hill. This is burnt sienna being added to the mix now. With closer aspects of a mountain, you can add that, and that'll give you a warmer pulling forward. Coming up in this region here, warming that up even more. I'm going to grab some lemon yellow. And with what's already on there will give me kind of that muddy green. And that'll help those areas pop forward as well. So I'm using linear perspective and atmospheric perspective, warm and cool, and I'll use darker tones to pull things forward and push other objects back. Burnt umber and ultramarine for dark. That's what I originally used for that background. Here it is in darker concentrations. These are for the shadow or darker areas on that rocky outcrop. It also helps frame the corners of the painting. Remember, once again, we'll have our castle will be in this region. I'm just blocking it a little bit just to get the idea, just the shape. And we're going to have that bridge come closer. bridge passes over the water. So right now, just still using this hake just to draw my shapes in. Let's do another back to front pass. Like I said, we're going to be exploiting this wet and wet for a little while. This is my burnt umber and ultramarine for darker areas on this mountain. I could leave it soft the way it is and give that foggy United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Ireland feel. The bridge will have its dark underpasses here. Let's grab some sap green. There's some green in this far mountain, but I really want to avoid using that so that I can keep my atmospheric perspective going. As you recede back in a picture plane, you're going to lose your yellow, then you're going to lose the red, and things are going to push more blue. So that's why with the far distant, you're often using a blue or a purple. And then as things get closer, we're starting to use more of the green and the yellow. Let me grab some burnt sienna with ultramarine. Just building up my darks. I'm flattening out the paper. This comes out a little bit right here, and that gives us a little bit of that S-shaped composition taking place as well. Let's switch over to the #1 rigger. Now with this, of course, we're still wet and wet. I'm going to play around with mixes of raw sienna, ultramarine, light red oxide to kind of get those stone colors. This is raw sienna and the light red oxide. And my main goal right here is to try to get kind of two tones, two colors, one for one side that's facing and then one for the other side. Ultramarine. I'm going to mix that with the raw sienna. I'm just kind of playing around a little bit, not really doing too much changing wise. Okay. Now I'm going to move away from there. Oh. Oh, so remember, like in the beginning of the video, I said people would drop in for the live, and we have None who just dropped in. Yeah, I'm glad you're able to see the live painting. How you doing today? We're on this end, we're playing around with just a castle, an image off of Google, and we're just playing in the wet and wet stage. Also, that ultramarine mixed with everything gives a nice granulation. I'm not sure how well that's showing up in the video, but I'm liking that. Just build up that closer aspect of that building, of that mountain. I think perspective-wise, the part that will wind up giving trouble is this bridge that'll be right here. It's going to come forward. Paint to the edge. I'll grab that #1 rigger. The granulation, I'm not sure if it shows up more whenever it's drying, but you're probably correct with that, where we still have a lot of the water playing with the lighting and whatnot, so it'll probably show up better once we dry. I'm going to take the dark. This is ultramarine, burnt sienna. Just grabbing Payne's Gray, putting that in. Yeah, so if you were to do a painting of just ultramarine and the burnt sienna combination, you would definitely get a lot of granulation with it. And they actually sell a medium that you can use, that you can mix in if you want granulation and your paint doesn't have it. What else can you do with it? Yeah. Okay, so these are the little passes underneath that bridge. But yeah, in a bit we'll do a dry off and we'll see if there is a visual change in the granulation. So that's something we got to watch out for. Then we have that rock structure here. I'm just using the side of the rigger for a textured effect. If I want to, we can do little scrapes for that bridge. Yeah, the granulation, you said on the left you can really see it. Oh yeah, right in here, definitely. I think a lot of paint companies are putting out colors with granulation mix in them. I think Daniel Smith has a large variety of granulating pigments as well. I'm using the side of the rigger as a straight line. Now in the video, I gotta ask, do you guys hear the machinery in the background, the skill saw? I'm wondering if it's coming through. My neighbor just had a baby, and so that's super exciting. And her father's over there helping build kind of like cabinets, so they have more room for stuff. Mixing some lemon yellow into this. You have your own noise happening, yeah. Usually the noise in these videos is are the cats in the background, but yesterday we rent an old house, and the landlord sent contractors to fix the bathroom floor that was sagging, and the bathroom floor came out so nice that I was like, oh, let me keep the art room door open and the bathroom door open and let the cats run around and play and let me see all that. So usually it's the cats making noises, but now that I left the art room door open all night, they aren't that frantic in here. This is lemon yellow in that mix. Oh, you have a so that you have a pilot nearby who practices acrobatics. Down by me, we have the pilots that will fly and spray the fields. That'd be a cool thing to learn, how to fly a plane. But I think once you learn, the rental fees are like outrageous. And owning a plane, that's pretty outrageous prices too. Put some texture in to give the illusion of the rocky outcrop. Oh, your husband's a pilot? That's cool. One of the girls that I coach with, she is getting her pilot's license. I've been learning that. I know she's in the military. I'm not sure if she was doing it for that purpose or not, or just on the side. She also got her license to drive the bus and whatnot. Yeah. You need to learn to land just in case. That's cool. You could probably get some really awesome photos for landscape painting up in the sky. You mind me asking what region you're in? I'm going to move to the background again, to that castle. You're in Texas? Awesome. So does your husband fly recreationally, or is it for work? Here's the one face of this castle. Kind of just using the side of the brush to let some texture happen. A pilot just for fun, that's really cool. In college, if your husband is into planes, he'll probably know what I'm talking about. There's like a double plane where it has two separate cockpits and the long wings between them and on the outside. And it's meant to launch the space shuttles into space. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what I'm talking about. It's kind of like been in testing and whatnot, and they fly it up, and then once it gets up high, they'll eventually use it to launch spaceships. A guy I used to play Mario Kart with and all that in the dorms, he's one of the people working on that project. I believe he's one of the pilots for it. So your husband's in a club for planes. That's probably the way to do things like that. Kind of like hunting leases and whatnot. You get a few other people together in a club, and then from there you can lower the cost of the activity. I'm just using the edge of the rigger for straight lines. This is just giving me kind of a linear perspective aspect of it. It's easy to overdo this and make it look too drawn in. So I'm going to do some brushes on the side. It would be nice one day to find a studio to share. I can do kind of an art group. That'd be fun. Oh. Yeah, they must have to maintain planes just constantly. I don't re-wet the painting. My mister is actually broken, so I'm gonna have to replace it. But I don't usually re-wet. It's something like this. I don't usually do buildings that often, but I would maybe re-wet this whole area with the brush itself, with pigment, and then feed colors into it. Like for example, I'm gonna grab a little bit of raw sienna and feed it in. Some painters that utilize the spray bottles either to re-wet or to texture. Joe Menza has been experimenting with that a lot, and he has a YouTube channel. An artist who uses it in every video I've ever seen and has been influential for me. And the reason I got a mister was Rick S. on YouTube. If you're not familiar with him, check him out. He's got a lot of great tutorials, and he uses mixtures very, very well. Misters very well. Now I am feeding in a little bit of wet and wet and playing with the windows. I think this recedes in this fashion. Yeah, Rick S does the negative painting. I've never tried negative painting, but every time somebody posts results from it, it's so awesome. Like the leaves or flowers being negatively painted. It's so beautiful. I'm gonna grab a little bit of lemon yellow green mix, because there's shrubbery in here. Probably switch to a number 4 rigger. Get a little more pigment down. Oh yeah, Rick is just a great painter, and I think he has a class that he teaches online. So if you check out Rick S. Watercolors, he has free videos on YouTube, but I believe he also does online classes. I think he was supposed to do some in-person classes, but they may have been canceled due to COVID restrictions. And he's posted pictures of his art room, and it's just, he has an amazing filming setup. Feeding in some lemon yellow and greens. Now, one thing I need to point out is I have this same green here as I do here. If you wind up having the same color, at different distances. For example, and this is just a patch of grass and another patch of grass. I read somewhere that if you make the closer one larger, that will help the further back one recede. So if you have maybe a field of flowers that are very close and a field of flowers that's very far away, if you do a thinner strip for the farther away flowers and a larger strip for the close ones, that will help maintain atmospheric perspective. Atmospheric meaning color, warmth, and tonality. So I haven't done any dry offs whatsoever. This has just been naturally drying as I've progressed. And we're probably going on about 30 minutes into this video, I think. Oh, well, thank you. My method, my kind of approach is to saturate the whole paper and start out wet and wet, and I'll feed in different colors, different values, either to create like a unified underpainting and to create a softness. And then I'll either do a dry off and then do my next layer, where then the next layer will be crisper because I'm painting on top of dried paper at that point, and it'll create like a nice overall unified feeling, and it'll have a I guess you would say a dichotomy or a juxtaposition of soft against harsh. Or I'll just paint all the way through and let the paper naturally dry as I paint. And as I put in stuff like this area is now all wet. So if I wanted, let's say, raw sienna, I can then feed that in and I have a wet and wet area. But I mainly paint fast and loose. Anywhere from like maybe 15 minutes to 45 minutes. And fast and loose painters, just to give you some ideas, Joe Menza, who I mentioned earlier, David Usher, Ron Ranson, who we have a Facebook page dedicated to him. He's deceased, but he was a big proponent of the Ron Ranson, the hake brush, and the utilization of that. Alan Owen, his paintings are fast and loose and deceptively simple. He has mastered that technique, and it looks so easy, but it's just very hard. I don't know if I mentioned Lois Davidson. Did I start painting with this method? Yeah, that's a good question. I started, well, in college I oil painted. And oil painting, we laid things side by side and we painted in that fashion with color comparison and how things worked out, and we pushed things around. And that was how I learned how to paint with oils. Then I took a long hiatus from painting, and I started up with Chinese watercolor painting. the pen and ink. It was flowers and landscapes. This has some elements of that in it, like the dots and whatnot. I think that comes a carryover from when I was trying to learn the Chinese painting. I'd spent a year on that, and then I decided to migrate over to Western watercolors. And Rick, the negative painting guy, was somebody who I watched a lot of, and I also would read a lot of books by Zoltan Szabo. Then I came across Stephen Cronin, who paints fast and loose using the hake on YouTube, and David Usher. And David Usher had turned me on to the Ron Ranson Facebook page. So I think very quickly I had started painting watercolors in this fashion. And then I just started developing my own approach. And I have a few different approaches that I like to use, just to kind of keep things fresh, and so I'm not stagnant with one method. On YouTube, I have a lot of the videos that are referred to as tonalist approach. They were derived from the oil painters Stuart Davies and what's his name, Dennis Sheehan, where they'll put oil paint on a canvas and smear it around and wipe it back and forth. And then I bring out lights and different textures. And I brought that over to watercolor, which I'm sure other people do as well. It's just a fun approach. It's a little too warm right here, so I'm just lifting in those spots. So something like this, we could do a dry off and see what needs to be worked on. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the blow dryer. So if you have earbuds on or anything like that, just watch your ears. It should take about 10 seconds. Okay, so that was a quick dry off. Just to ramble about different painters. Another painter who's deceased, who had a big influence on me, was, of course I can't think of his name, James Fletcher Watson. He has some really good books out. He was a little bit longer painter than Ron Ranson. I think he would say maybe his paintings took about 2 hours, but I'm not sure if he was painting on site and letting them dry. But a book or two by James Fletcher Watson is really good to have. I never saw any videos of his. It's more lemon yellow. Okay, this method using a neutral color palette. Let's see. So the palette that I'm pulling from is raw sienna, burnt umber, light red oxide, lemon yellow, ultramarine, and Payne's gray. This palette, we call it the Ranson palette. It's just a simplified palette so that there wasn't a lot of different colors where you're stressing out what you're pulling from. And that kind of creates a harmony, I guess, between it. However, I know it does look kind of neutral painted, and I think that's kind of my approach, is that it's kind of like that. People can get some really beautiful, colorful stuff with this palette. For instance, Joe Menza, his, and this isn't, I don't know if he likes being referred to like this or not, but his are kind of more Bob Rossian, but he's using the same palette as me. So it might be mixture preferences. It's a pretty versatile palette. Like, let's see, earlier before, I was just doing a little illustrative practice, and this is the same palette with a little bit of sap green, so you can see how illustrative and bright it is. But I prefer more moody stuff. Let's see. Yeah. I'm not sure what it is about the neutrals, but I kind of like that that feel to things. I did have I guess you would call it like a troll. I had a troll from Canada, and she was like a school teacher, like an art teacher. It was very weird. And she would follow me across like different social media, like just commenting on stuff and commenting on how dark everything is and moody everything is, and if this is the way I see the world, that's sad, stuff like that. And I was like, well, I just like the darker paintings. I like that. Like, she even went so far as, I'd paint these interior forest scenes that were dark, or swamp scenes that were dark. And she's like, oh, the swamp isn't that dark, the water's not that dark, etc. And I was like, it gets very dark in the swamp, and the water's very dark. And she posted a picture of a swamp and said, look at how bright and cheery it is. And here's the crazy part. I found that photo immediately on Google Images, and she had cropped it and processed it through Photoshop to make it bright and cheerful. It was actually a swamp that I used to go kayaking and fishing in. I still do the fishing, I just don't do the kayaking in it. But I was like, did you really take an image and process it in Photoshop to make it more bright to prove your point? And she was like, oh, well, you know, cameras don't take perfect pictures, so it was too dark and I needed to fix it. It was the weirdest thing. Let's see. Yeah, she was cray cray. So then I just blocked her on that. I think. Oh, you went to in Slidell? Very cool. Yeah, Slidell is 3 or 4 hours north of me. I'm down in the Vermilion Parish by the Vermilion Bay. So you know the Atchafalaya Basin, most likely. If you're in Texas and you were to take I-10 to Baton Rouge, you'd cross over the Atchafalaya, and that's where she had taken a photo online of. Me and my buddy, we have our archery bows set up for what's called bow fishing, and we'll go out to the Atchafalaya Basin, and you know we'll fish, but we'll bow fish, and very fun hobby, and you know, beautiful area to do that in. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. Alright, I'm going to do another dry off and kind of take a look overall. Maybe let me just do a little texture first here. But I'm thinking that I might call this one done or do some work on it later on. So I'm going to do a quick dry off, and I'll put a mat over it so we can see what it looks like within a mat. And then I believe I might call it from there. Maybe put a bird or two in the sky. Just a Payne's gray wash. All right, I'm going to do a blow dry real quick. I think I need a little bit of raw sienna in here. Hopefully it's not making it too warm. Yeah, the hake brush, I talked about it in the beginning. I don't think you were here for that. The hake brush is the Ranson hake brush, and it's available from Cheap Joe Art Supply or Pro Art. Okay, I'm gonna dry again. And thank you for the compliment. Let's sign it, and we'll put a mat over it, and we will call it done. Oh, do I paint flat? Yes, I paint flat. Other people paint with it upright. I just prefer flat for some reason, though it does put a little strain on the neck at times. The pen that I just used. Oh no, it's okay. This actually had just uploaded a video onto YouTube where I had used this. This is the Himalaya fountain pen, Revolution pen, version 1. It has a flex nib on it, their stock flex nib. And it's a piston filler. As you can see, I need to fill it up. I'd got this one on Christmas sale. I think it was like 20% off. And I had got it using the Patreon money to, put art supplies back into it. And this is the platinum carbon ink, which is waterproof. Let's see. This sketch that I had talked about earlier, that was done with the platinum carbon ink, which is really light, fast, and really waterproof. Yeah, I collect fountain pens. I'd gotten these ones for art purposes. I have a lot of vintage lever fillers or button fillers, but I've had to restore pretty much all of them into working condition because either, well, most likely, the latex sac had, hardened or rotted out. So let's change the angle here so you can see what it looks like underneath the mat. So there's the results. I hope you enjoyed it. And for everybody watching this on YouTube at a later date, please like, subscribe, follow. Anytime I do a tutorial, you are more than welcome to follow along with it. And I encourage you to sign your own name on any artwork that you follow from me. And you have my express permission to sell anything that you paint from one of my tutorials, because I want you guys to succeed. I want you guys to have, art supply money. And, it's just a fun hobby, and I want to, see you guys progress in that. Oh, you got rid of your vintage fountain pens. Oh, man. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. So let's hold this up. I'm going to show it like that, and then I am going to log out. It was a pleasure talking to you all. I hope you guys have a safe rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all soon. All right, I'm going to sign out.